What happened Friday from our lower story perspective, that is our limited human perspective, darkness fell. Jesus' friends betrayed, denied, and scattered. All hope was lost. He breathed his last. As loveless power crucified powerless love. He is finished, they said. But do you know what was happening Friday around 3 p.m. in the upper story? That is God's story. Jesus said, "It is finished," breathed his last, and heaven began counting to 3. 1, 2. And early on that first day of the week, on the third day, forever hidden in the mystery of God, it is all redeemed. Jesus' self-emptying love is vindicated. Death's stranglehold is broken. Sins are forgiven. Life wins. Love is resurrected. That is Easter. That is our charisma, our proclamation that reverberates off these walls each first day of the week that we gather as Christians. That is the good news that we believe has the power to shake the very foundations of the world and change the course of history. How? How does this happen? Because when we receive the resurrection for the gift that it is and understand that it is something that Christ shares with his followers, it then empowers us to carry on his work of resurrection in the world. You know, Jesus put it many ways, and I think he did so that we would get the point. Love one another as I have loved you, he said. Just as the Father has sent me, so I send you. If any wish to become my followers, let them take up their cross daily and follow me. Love your neighbors. Do good to those who persecute you. And so on and so on. But the message was always very, very clear. The work I began here, this is God's will for the world. If you believe I am who I say I am, you have seen God's will in flesh and blood. Go and do likewise. Care for the poor, the widow, the orphan, the outcast. They have a special place in my kingdom. And whatever you do to the least of them, you do it to me. But what happens on Monday morning outside these walls? Life happens, of course. And it has a way of quickly snatching the glow we feel on mornings such as these, doesn't it? Mornings where such good news may have never felt so real, so true, and our resolve to live it is never stronger. We end up wondering why, if this resurrection that the preacher says is such a gift, why is so much of life, so much of our world, more like Good Friday than Sunday morning? If resurrection began God's process of making all things new, remaking the broken world with hope and peace and love, then either it's not that great a gift after all, we may think, or maybe we're not living up to our full call. My sense is the latter is true. And I have a feeling that Easter for many of us, including me in some years, is like that brand new treadmill that we received on Christmas this year. So you know what I'm talking about. Yes. The excitement, the promise, and the hope that it brought. And now it sits collecting dust in the basement, or serves as a laundry hamper, right? And we wonder if we shouldn't just sell it, trade it in for something new. How do we find lasting meaning in this truly amazing gift of the resurrection? How does its power remain a force in our lives after the glow of Easter fades? Well, I take comfort knowing that even those who were Jesus' best friends struggled with these questions. Those who were by his side every day for 3 years still struggled with these questions. Even after the truth of Jesus alive confronted them face to face, life somehow feels like Monday morning again. You know, I love when movies do a "Where Are They Now?" Right? As the credits roll, or maybe just before. Maybe they flash the heading 20 years later or something like that, and we get one more glimpse of the movie's characters, where they are in the future, what they've done with their lives. And that's what this 21st chapter, this last chapter in the Gospel of John is. It's kind of like the "Where are they now?" of the disciples. And where are they? After this great drama, seeing Jesus risen from the dead, after they received their mission from him, they're fishing. They're right back where they started. Not very impressive. Sure, Jesus told them they continue fishing, but if you'll recall, it was not for fish. It was for people. Can we blame them? See, even though they must be thrilled that he was alive, it was still always a farewell party. You know, when parents tell their little kids that they're going out, even for one night, there are always three questions, right, parents? Well, where are you going? Can we go too? Who's going to watch us while you're gone? Well, where are you going, Jesus? I'm going to the Father. Can we go too? Not now, but you will someday. Well, who's going to watch us when you're gone? The Holy Spirit will watch over you, advocate, protect, and comfort you. And then Jesus leaves. He died. And yes, he's back. He's raised to new life. Can you imagine the shock? But he's leaving again, and they know it. Those drawn-out goodbyes are the worst, aren't they? But I'm so glad for the disciples. I am so glad for the disciples, aren't you? As much as I don't want to admit it, they represent us all our frailty and fickleness as humanity. And sometimes all we need as human beings is some normalcy, right? We live life in rhythms. Why won't life just get back to normal? So they go and do what's normal, what makes sense to them. They fish. And here's when Jesus brings them ashore for one more lesson over breakfast. Now, if you want me to listen to you, really listen to you, just put some breakfast food in front of me. You not only have my ears, you have my heart as well. Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Feed my lambs. Again, he asks, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord. You know that I love you. Take care of my sheep. And for the third time, Jesus asked him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter's hurt for being asked the third time. Lord, you know everything. You have to know that I love you. Feed my sheep. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. What do we do in the face of resurrection? How do we use this gift that God has given us in Christ? How do we demonstrate our love for the one who loves us relentlessly and without wavering? Take care of God's children. Love one another as I have loved you. The resurrection asks us to recognize the hard truth that we cannot be truly happy or fulfilled, let alone disciples of the risen Christ, if others are hurting, oppressed, hungry, or naked. The promise of Easter is awesome, yes, but Easter also comes with a demand. It is not always easy. Some sheep don't want to be fed. Some will bite our hands if we try. Some will spend their entire lives running away from anything resembling Jesus. And yet Jesus doesn't give us a way out of it. It's tough business, but it is our business if we do really want to increase in our love for him. To love Jesus, to really make something of this resurrection story, we've got to do something in our lives for our neighbors. The great preacher Fred Craddock once asked his congregation to imagine the resurrection like a $10,000 bill. You have a $10,000 bill in your possession. Wow! If anyone has such a bill today, feel free to leave it in the offering plate. But after several days of admiring this wonderful $10,000 bill, what do we do with it? What do we do with it? We don't go out for coffee and say, here, I'll just take care of this out of my $10,000 bill. We don't say, hey, let me pay for these Shorty's hot dogs out of this $10,000 bill. That $10,000 bill will have meaning only after we have changed it into a sack full of concrete acts of grace and mercy. Want the feeling this morning to last? Feed my lambs. Take care of my sheep. Some of you may have seen the post that went viral this week. It was all over my Facebook. Tons of friends had shared it. It comes from the northwest of our country, from Dutch Brothers Coffee. Anyone see that? Yeah, it's a wonderful picture that the company posted. And at first, the photo is pretty confusing. See, what appear to be 4 employees from Dutch Brothers Coffee are literally piled on top of each other, and are reaching out of the tiny drive-through window. Okay? That's the scene. But in their hands, we might expect coffee cups. No, they're not holding coffee cups, not scrambling to get them to a caffeine-starved customer. No. Their hands are holding the hand of a customer who was visibly upset, just falling apart when she came through. Now, one employee at the window, Pierce Dunn, just 19 years old, asked her what was wrong. And it turns out, as she shared, that her husband had died tragically the night before. He was 37 years old. So Pierce offered to pray with her, and she said that would help. He called on his other employees to join him, and they clutched hands and squeezed their way out so that they could touch the hand of the woman. And they all had their heads bowed and were praying with her. And they offered her free coffee and prayer anytime she felt she needed it. Feed my lambs. Now, CBS 60 Minutes ran a great story this week. Perhaps you saw it. It was entitled The Resurrection of Saint Benedict. It was about a prep school by the name of St. Benedict in Newark, New Jersey. And back in the late 60s, in 1967 to be exact, the area was plagued with rampant unemployment, racism, police brutality, high crime all over. The school's future was all but decided, and in 1972, it closed. But its headmaster had a vision that would change the course of the school's history. Edwin Lehigh had this revelation, and he begged his superiors in the Catholic Church, give me one more chance. Give this school one more chance. Let the students lead. Let the students lead. Now, nearly every student today in this highly successful, thriving school is from a low-income family. And they come to school each morning, and they are greeted with the title, brother. Every single student calls one another brother. And each day begins with a chant called the affirmation. You can be, you can be, you can be, they yell to one another. The senior group leader, he's a senior in high school, his name is Bruce Davis, has this huge group of high school boys, fellow peers, in the palm of his hand. He's leading the morning assembly before school. Turn to your left and turn to your right, he says, and remind somebody, I love you. I love you. Be sure you know that they are loved. And the boys follow suit. You can be anything you want to be. Go, each of you, and conquer. Happy Thursday. And the boys go off to learn. And then they repeat the school's motto as they're walking out. Whatever hurts my brother hurts me. Their version of the golden rule. Now, Bruce, the senior leader, was quoted saying, Benedict's men are different than the guys you see outside, every single day. We learn what we're willing to accept, which is nothing but the best. Nothing but finishing what we started. Students organize their own groups, their extracurricular activities, their sports schedules even. The students are in charge, and they compete with one another for top grades. So the boys press each other to study, and all school activities are scheduled and planned by the students. Now get this, the school year runs 11 months. 11 months. Can you imagine the first group of students that were told, you're leading. Yes, we'll teach. You lead everything else. Jesus does the same thing. And he gathers them all together for one more lesson. I'll teach. You feed my lambs and take care of my sheep. You do the work of resurrection. You will never be alone. Eberhard Arnold said, the miracle of God comes not only from above, it also comes through us. It is also dwelling in us. Yes, Good Friday's death-dealing powers too often rule the day. But resurrection is there if we're only willing to see it, if we're only willing to let it work its way out of our guarded and fearful hearts to a world in need. I, for one, can't wait to see how you'll help write Resurrection's next chapter. Oh, what a gift to have a front row seat for that.